Would anybody like water? Why is all this water?
It's very festive.
That's nice. Better than the chalkboard. I think that was the whole idea.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Vidal.
How are you doing?
We all good? She's not here. I'm just asking, those of you who signed up, Kevin and Scott, do either of you want to speak before we get to your issue, or did you just sign in, or?
Just signing in for me.
Okay.
I'd like to speak at the very beginning, yeah.
Oh, okay, we'll just approve the minutes and then you
Yeah.
can speak.
Yeah, he's gonna be late. That way I can use it.
Are we all settled here?
Yes.
All right, welcome everybody, Administration Public Works Committee. We have a few missing pieces tonight. We're expecting one more member who indicated he would be late. First item is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, October 28th.
Move approval. Second.
Any comments or changes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have items for consideration, but first we're going to go to our speaker. Sir, would you like to come up? Make sure you, where should he stand? Is it this room? Oh, right
How
there,
does this
okay.
work, over there?
Yes, and give
Okay.
your name and address.
Okay, and this is what I'm gonna read here.
Okay,
Let me
oh,
just get a
good,
copy.
good, excellent.
Hi, my name is Scott Sanders. I'm here this evening representing the Buku Cultural Center. And I'm asking that the following statement, that you take action on this tonight because we have a definite deadline issue here. This idea that I'm about to speak to started 2 years ago in several conversations over a period of time with the Evanston Public Library. However, just a few short weeks ago, they got cold feet on getting involved in anything having to do with community media. So I'm bringing this idea to my friends. I brought the idea to my friends at Buku. They liked it, and they asked me to come and speak to you tonight. So, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at any point. I would like you to vote on this and agree with this statement.
Tell us what it is.
Well, this is what we're trying to do is get a LPFM, a low power FM community radio license into Evanston. And you've got to have an organization that wants to do something like that, and Buku wants to do that. But a key point here is that they need a very specific kind of, for technical reasons, they need a site for an antenna. There's actually very limited possibilities. And the only place that we've located is the Southwest Water Tower, okay, which already has a few antennas on it, so this is nothing special in that regard. So I'll read this. Whereas the City of Evanston is an advocate for the arts, free expression, and education, and whereas ever concentrating media ownership and massive job cuts in the newspaper industry are creating a monoculture and are a threat to democracy, therefore, it is agreed that the appropriate city offices are directed to work with the Buku Cultural Center so that it can list the municipal water tower in southwest Evanston as a proposed site for a radio antenna and transmitter in its application to the Federal Communications Commission for a 100-watt low-power FM community radio station license. Several other antennas are located on the water tower. The city would also need to provide the Buku Cultural Center with a letter offering a, quote, reasonable assurance, end quote, as to the availability of this antenna location. If the FCC awards the Buku Cultural Center a permit from among the competing applicants, the Buku Cultural Center will pay rent to the city at the rate of $1 per month for the use of the tower, observe all applicable ordinances and laws, ensure that no interference will be created by the installation, pay all costs associated with the installation, powering and maintenance of the antenna and transmitter. The FCC application deadline is November 14th. If the application is approved by the FCC, construction would not begin for 2 to 4 years. So really, we're just asking you to enter into a conversation with Buku. This is not a promise to put the antenna on the tower. It's simply saying that it sounds like a good idea. In a couple years, if you get this license, let's talk more about this.
I think we might be able to accommodate the part about let's talk. And so perhaps members of the committee, this really is not something we ever do. We do make references, and I think that would be an excellent idea for Alderman Burris.
Right, that's what I was going to make
to do
reference to,
that.
to the
Yes.
city manager. This may, and I don't know the answer to this. It may be an administrative piece versus, we couldn't vote on anything tonight because it
Oh,
hasn't
no.
been.
No, but
put on
this
the
is
agenda.
just to talk to them.
Yeah, so-
And trust me, putting an antenna on a piece of city property is a big deal.
Yes.
And so, I mean, you said in your statement that it is no big deal because there are other antennas. I mean, we're talking zoning issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and
Right.
cost issues. So you would like to
Refer
refer
to the city
the
manager's
whole
office.
idea. Okay, so that's a big step.
Okay, got that phrase I put in quotes, reasonable assurance is all we're
No,
looking for.
no. Referring to the city manager, your request.
It simply would get the process started, and I can
Or stopped,
probably suggest,
whichever.
or stopped, and I can suggest that I'm not sure anything will be wrapped up and decided before next week, November 4th.
But then
This
they
week,
it
November
probably won't
14th.
be making an application. This is apparently the only site that the FCC would be happy with
Yeah.
that we've located in the
It
city.
may be worth exploring, but I can't see how it could be accomplished before November 14th in 3 days.
Right.
But it could be
But-
something to the extent of the city manager
Mhm.
might write a letter saying that we're in conversation with you.
Okay.
And we haven't discounted, but we haven't.
And again, I apologize for the lateness here. We were going down a little bit of a different road until just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
No
thanks for
apologies
your
needed,
time.
thank you very much.
Thank
Okay, next, Evanston payroll through October 20th, and the bills through November 12th.
I move approval,
Any discussion
A1
on the
and
bills?
A2.
Pardon me?
I move approval of A1 and A2.
Okay,
Second.
any discussion on the bills? Thank you, Jonathan, for your responses. All those in favor of recommending the bills and the
Aye.
payroll?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Do you want to go A3?
Yes,
We'll
ma'am.
go
A31?
clockwise.
A31, I move that we recommend to the city council authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Acela with regard to updating and optimizing our automation software system, and that not to exceed $57,152.
Second.
All right, I'd like to have a little discussion about this. I'd like to know how, if our staff originally came up with like almost $500,000 worth of issues that needed to be dealt with, what took place that brought it down to what, under 60,000? Right? Yes, Mr. Munzer.
Good evening, Chairman Rainey and
Was it
committees.
just that you came to us and then all of a sudden?
If I said yes, would that
We
suffice?
say $350,000.
I wish I could say that, but it's not the case. So ideally, Acela, in which we call PAL, Permits and Licensing System, that's used across various departments, was purchased by the city almost 7 years ago. Over the course of 7 years, each department has started to run up a list of fixes, if you will, and issues in order for the software to operate in a optimal way. That typically was addressed with staff. That's no longer the case. in terms of in-house staff. So what we did is we convened a committee of staff from all the departments, and we came up with what I'll call a wish list, and it would fix, quote unquote, fix the entire system. But when we went to the vendor with that, the vendor came out to Evanston and met with staff from all the different departments, and we got back the proposal. It's really twofold. One, it involves a lot of vendor participation and analysis on site, which is a lot of man hours, which started to run up into a lot of money. The second half of that is the implementation of what's called the Citizen Access Module. And basically what that would allow is for residents and businesses to apply electronically for a variety of permits across the city and track the status thereof. That's about 200,000 of the 450,000, and then the balance essentially was the cost of the vendor to come out and do this analysis. So even though staff brought up we have issues from A to Z, obviously it takes the vendor a lot of time to actually go through the process of how to fix that.
Is this the same purchase where there were so many hours of unused time on the part? Why, if there are so many issues, why did we not use the time?
I can't speak to that. I mean, it was prior to me coming here, but when I came here and we began an analysis of the system, it was discovered by staff that we had these credit hours, so that we wanted to make sure that we were now applying those to this quote. So this quote, even after we revised it down, was still about $110,000. So the $53,000 credit gets us to the 57. What the $57,000 does is it corrects some things that absolutely need to be fixed in public works, in the fire department, in community development, et cetera.
For as long as it's been here, this software's been with us, all I've ever heard were complaints or problems, or we're not using it correctly. My concern is, the question that comes to mind is this the correct software for us? Is it really the right piece to be using?
When we got the quote for $450,000, and certainly before that, we started to ask that question too. That is a very long-term response in terms of it would take a lot of study and working with other communities to see if another software system was possible. But the investigation and the implementation into doing that is a 1-2 year type process. And we could start to begin that investigation, but we really need the fixes because this is the software we have right now.
And you're comfortable with the service provided once we contact them and say we need help? I mean, I'm concerned that we had paid for this service and nobody from the software company followed up and massaged us, held our hand and said everything going good. I mean, nobody was checking in.
I have been very clear that
Good.
we will be checking in and that it's a priority for me and staff.
Or they're out of here. All right, Alderman Grover, sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Munzer and I exchanged some emails today about what this system could do, and there are a lot of ways to, the $200,000 to further optimize the system. This Acela PAL system, we call it, that can really help us become more business friendly, to streamline the permitting and licensing process so that all of those applicants can do the update online checks and get real-time feedback on where their applications are and where they're pending and what they still need. So long-term, looking down the road at ways in which we're looking to become more business friendly, I think a software system like this would be important if we could add some of those additional features. But got to grow the money tree for that one too, and right now we just can't afford it.
And it's not the only software out there, and
Right.
that was my concern.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got to, we're stuck with it, sort of. I mean, that's sort of what you're saying, and we're going to make the best of it that we possibly can.
Correct.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I
Go
Move
ahead.
approval of A 3.2 to authorize the city manager to execute a 1-year contract extension with Palatine Oil Company for the purchase of bulk automotive oils, antifreeze, and lubricants in the amount of $60,000.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, don't you just love this one?
What an exciting one.
It is, it's one of our better ones. All right, any further discussion?
I'm going to let this, no, I think so.
Okay, all right.
It's an aye.
Pardon me?
It's an aye.
All those in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is, this is a good one.
833, I move for approval of contracts for snow, recommending to the city council approval of contracts for snow towing service in the amount not to exceed $75,000. These are the retainers that we pay to towing services, a maximum of 25 of them to help us out with towing during snow emergencies.
Second.
So when you see these strange tow trucks at the end of your block, move your car. All those in favor of recommending to the council?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next.
I move A4, ordinance 100-0-13, amending provisions of the city code related to fees and costs for the collection of unpaid fines. The Transportation Parking Committee and staff recommend the city council adopt ordinance 100-0-13 to specifically provide for the imposition of cost and attorney's fees incurred for the course of collecting parking fines left unpaid for more than 35 days. No one would do that.
Second.
Tell us how we determine the attorney fees? Mr. Farrar?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, attorney fees, I think, would be set out administratively and typically conform to a rate that's comparably charged by municipal attorneys, which is typically $200 per hour.
So how would we determine, and you would keep track of the hours?
Oh, yes.
You've done?
That would be part of a fee petition.
I see.
We've done those before.
How well do we function in terms of collecting?
In terms of the,
Collecting before we get to your, oops,
I'll defer to Mr. Voss on that point.
Mr. Ross. How do we do in our collection rate?
Good evening, Madam Chair, Rick Voss, Revenue and Parking. What we do currently, Professional Account Management is the firm that collects all our parking ticket fees. And currently, we're looking at I responded to an earlier email. We're projecting that we're billing the actual person we're collecting the fees approximately, and we're estimating about $105,000 this year. So what happens is that we add this fee to their process. They collect the fee, they credit all the collection to us, and then, of course, they bill us for the back fee that they collected. So basically, it's not a hit on our budget. They're collecting the fee up front, putting it as a total into our revenues, and then backing it out through a regular accounting and procedure and payment.
Why the ordinance amendment? Just because we'd already been collecting the fees, we just didn't have a ordinance mechanism to make this happen?
That is correct. We want to make sure it was codified, to make sure we had everything in step.
Somebody come to court and say, I couldn't find it in the city code.
No, I wanted to avoid that. That's
Oh,
why.
okay, all right. All righty, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next.
Ordinance 124-013 permits the issuance of a Class M liquor license to In-Grape Company at 828 Davis. I move that we recommend to the City Council adoption of this ordinance. We created the liquor license, and now this is the first applicant under this liquor license, a Class M.
Second.
Okay, and I noticed in here there was a provision so that a bicycle beer truck could not be allowed under this license. I saw the paragraph. I mean, when I read it, I said, oops.
I must have missed that, Alderman.
No, All right, anybody want to discuss this? I mean, I think we've got a really good understanding of what they were talking about when we did the the ordinance. All right, all those in favor of recommending this to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Grant, can we do all the next three together?
Yeah.
Okay, just reread the top paragraph. Okay. I move approval of A6, A7, and A8. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt the following three ordinances approving the First Amendment to the Howard Hartree Tax Increment Financing District, If approved, the Howard Hartree Tax Increment Financing District will be expanded to include property associated with the street address 222 Hartree Avenue, immediately north of the existing TIF district. We're also requesting suspension of the rules for introduction and action this evening.
Second.
All right, just to clarify for people.
Sure.
One of the ordinances, these are all required by state law. One of the ordinances simply identifies the geographical area. The other ordinance identifies what is legitimately spent in a TIF. And the other ordinance, I believe, just recommends the expansion. The two really big issues are the money and the geography. So no additional time is being added on. In other words, the term of the district is not being increased. It's only the geography. So, anybody have any problem with suspending the rules? This is getting to be kind of urgent. This all has to do with the auto barn and the 222 Hartree property. All those in favor of recommending all of the above to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chair, I'll move ordinance 127-013, which is the City of Evanston's 2013 tax levy. And levying of the annual property tax for our general fund operations, IMRF, and the police and fire pension funds.
Second.
This is for introduction. We are not suspending the rules.
And I keep forgetting I'm the only one that can second. Like,
You're on call.
I second.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on it.
All right. Any discussion? We'll have that later. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I move approval of A10, ordinance 128-0-13, the 2013 Special Service Area Number 4 tax levy.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on this one? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chair, Alderman Rainey, I'll move ordinance 129-013, which is the 2013 Evanston Public Library tax levy.
I guess I have to second.
Okay.
To recommend to council.
All those in favor of recommending to council say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. We'll take it out anyway. Next, A12.
Oh, sorry. I move A12, ordinance 5T-0-13, the 2013 Evanston Township tax levy.
Second.
Hopefully the last Evanston Township tax levy. All those in favor of recommending to the, do we have to do trustees or can we do this as?
You can just do it, yes.
I mean, here we can.
Yes.
But what about out there? On council?
I'm of the view that it can go as a council action.
I'm with you. All those in favor of recommending to council?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, items for discussion. Now the meeting stuff. Banner policy. Yes.
Good evening, Chairman Ray, committee members.
Good evening.
Suzette Robinson, Director of Public Works, here to talk about the banner policy. Again, what we would like to make some changes to the existing policy. When we talked to you on September 9th, there were some concerns that were raised, and we tried to address the concerns that were listed by making some changes. So we are still proposing that only banners from city-sponsored events or city-funded banners be allowed under the program, and that the banner display time would be from May 1st through October 31st. Previously, the policy stated June 1st, so we made an adjustment so that it was an actual 6-month period. We wanted to limit the permit display time to a maximum of 6 months. Previously, we had requested a maximum of 3 months with a 3-month renewal period, and now we're just saying they could just stay up for the entire 6 months without having to come back to us. We want to restrict the banners from primary routes with 4 lanes of traffic, which would be Ridge and Green Bay, except in the business district and adjacent to exempt entities. Previously, we didn't have any exceptions to that. we just said no banners on primary routes. Now we're saying we can have them on the 4-lane roads if it happens to coincide with business district, or adjacent to the exempt entities, which I will describe in the next section, because we're proposing that we exempt from this policy separate units of local government, which would be the school districts, and Ridgeville Park District, and hospitals, universities, and downtown Evanston. Previously, we only offered an exemption to local government units in downtown Evanston. So if the changes are approved by the committee, we will remove all the banners this year by November 30th, and then we adhere to the time frame beginning May 1st, going forward.
Alderman Burrs.
The banner in the park on Ridge and Main, the banners that are up, for some reason the name of the park is escaping me right at this moment.
We know which one you mean.
Sorry.
Great.
Great, thank you. I've brought this up previously. One, they're sort of precarious. They fall over those holes. I know this is a parks issue and not necessarily a public works issue, but also the banners that are displayed there, some are business related. I just think if we're going to take down, we need to address this. It looks really, really bad. And again, I know this is parks, not you, but I think it should be brought up at the same time.
They're not real classy, but they are very informative. I always check to see what's up there.
But some of them are companies. So maybe
Do we
something.
put- I mean, some of the stuff is Ridgeville stuff up there, isn't it? I mean, do we let anybody put?
There's one was like Divorce Academy, and I mean,
Oh, yeah, I
like,
saw that.
I'm just.
So I've
All
already
right,
been. Sorry.
So could we send a reference to the parks people and ask them to
Yeah.
clarify
For banner
how
policy.
you get your banner up
There
there?
was, I referenced, asked previously, and Director Gaynor said there really wasn't a policy. People came
You
and
wake up in the morning.
they
there's
came and said, we want a banner up, and we didn't charge them to put the banner up. We just,
It's kind of nice, but they don't look so great. Yeah.
okay.
All right. As long as it doesn't cost. Yes.
And Director Robinson, I assume we can still consult with the business districts about the desirability of banners on the 4-lane on Green Bay specifically, I'm thinking. Because I know you had reservations about just the operation of putting banners up along the stretch of a busy road, disruption to traffic and so forth. And maybe in consultation with the business district itself, we could figure out whether or not they really want so many banners along the major route.
Yeah.
And this just applies to our light pole banners.
That's
it.
correct.
Just
And
to-
I will say that even with the Central Business District, they only go on Green Bay. Yes, yeah,
It's
just
really
the
just to
business
block in.
district areas, yes.
To block
They
in.
really
Yeah.
just frame the businesses in that area.
Right.
And so, under the policy, that would be allowed.
Okay, and they've got these fancy new banners
Mhm.
too.
Yes.
So
Thanks to economic
that
development.
doesn't disrupt the policy.
No, that's actually allowed.
It's allowed, I
The
just,
policy.
just addressing your concerns. There's a
Yes.
balance to be struck,
Yeah.
and maybe the
Mhm.
business association can help us with that.
Okay.
And so I guess my question, going back to Alderman Burrs's point, so do we want to make the requirements the same for the banners in the parks? Because it would be us hanging them now as a part of park
But is there
maintenance.
any other banner in any other park?
Yeah.
No.
Not that I know of. Let's just deal with that separately.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine to deal with this separately. It was, as
And
we
we
were
can
talking.
deal with it as a part of Great Park, the Great Park, because you asked us to come take a look at,
Right, it's
So,
just,
do you want us
it's
to-
really kind
okay.
of scary how
Mr. City
they're hanging out
Manager,
there.
did you want to say something
If I
about
may.
this? You may.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, good evening. Thank you for taking this issue up. It's a very important one, and I appreciate all the input that you've had. I've caught the tail end of your discussion regarding Gray Park. I know in talking with Alderman Wilson, he's very concerned about the look of the park. And I think there may be some alternatives. I don't know if you've noticed and probably haven't. some signage or some permanent signs that downtown Evanston and the city are putting up across from Fountain Square. You might remember there's a little patch of landscaping across from Fountain Square, and in the past, downtown Evanston has had a wooden sign, which they've used mostly to help me with this, Director Robinson, the downtown summer
The dance.
Thursday night dancing
The dance,
and all of
yeah.
that. And what they have done, working with the city of Evanston, is put up enclosed signs that you can then hang things on and then open and close a door. And my thought is that perhaps a little larger, but something like that might also work in Gray Park rather than the way that we currently have the signage. So Alderman Wilson is concerned about the look of this, and perhaps we can simply take this particular issue and look for some alternatives. His first thought was perhaps just some different poles, because right now it really is just sort of two metal poles on either end with the flag pole in the middle. At the very least, try to clean that up. So if we could perhaps take this specific issue of Gray Park and come back to you at a future meeting, because I think as Director Robinson mentioned, we don't have any kind of signage in other parks with any kind of regular basis.
But the banners in Gray Park are not for pedestrians. Those are really for people driving by.
That's correct.
Right, so we should keep that in mind.
And there are, I think, from time to time, you'll see banners up in other parks advertising
Summer
specific
programs.
registrations or,
Tennis.
the Christmas Nutcracker kind of thing. I think they put a sign up on the backstop there at Dodge and Maine. There's been one for the farmers market there all season long. So I think we take that with the committee's concurrence as a separate issue, and we'll come back at a future meeting.
Thank you. Okay, so do you have one?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like the revisions. I think this works.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
it. All right, hearing no other business,
Move adjourned?
thank you.
Second.
Is our next meeting in this room?
It is not.
It is not.
Chairwoman is asking to move it.
Okay.